URL then basically try that.
Smari, I know you also have a demo you can run
Yes.
if you need to, but I don't know if you were planning to.
No, not really going to do that, but it's, so yeah, I work on MailPile, which is a free software mail application, because at some point in the last couple of years, there became this really great need for email to become a cool thing again. But just to step back a little bit, actually, if you're interested, you can go to mailpile.is and there's a demo there live and all the code and everything. But step back a little bit. When people are always talking about big data, and when they do so, they're actually talking about statistics most of the time. Big data is not about scale; it's about scope. And one of the kind of key properties, I think, that turns the thing from a data collection, a statistical gathering of information into what we call a big data set, is that the sampling becomes messy. It becomes not really comprehensive, and you use very poor techniques to accumulate the data. And then you start to make all sorts of weird assumptions about the validity of it, and basically it's stuff that good statisticians just avoid. Now, so one of the side effects of all of this is that people try to just gather any data they can and just expand their scope infinitely. And some companies have become very good at that. So you have companies like Amazon and eBay that have basically started to gather a very holistic image from their perspective of what people are doing in retail, and it's kind of their goal to expand that view to actually have a complete view of everything that is happening in real retail on a societal level. And my worry is that when people have that capacity, then they really have a large amount of leverage to use against society and against humanity as a whole. And that's something, me as somebody who cares about privacy and about essentially individual right to self-determination, I don't like that. That sounds like a terrible idea to me. So I look at the internet and look at, basically I work on the internet all the time, and that's kind of where I come from. And there, you've got this whole set of different services, and they're doing all sorts of different things, and more they're becoming increasingly centralized, to the point where, take email. Email is a 49-year-old technology. So it'll be 50 next year, we've got to celebrate. Yeah. But it's kind of crazy to think of an internet technology as being 50, right? So back 50 years ago or 49 years ago, anybody who wanted to have email would have to run their own server. And that, of course, was very technologically exclusionary, and in a way it's a bit elitist. But then as you moved on, it moved to the point in kind of 1990s where basically every techie ran his own server, every university had its own server for all of the students, and then there'd normally be a local ISP in every town that was catering to a couple of thousand people, and nobody had full holistic overview over the entire data of humanity. Fast forward to today, the biggest single email service in the world is Gmail. According to data self-reporting from 2008, they had 435 million users. Now, back then, you only had 2.5 billion users on the internet. Now it's about 3 billion, give or take. Hard to estimate, but you can imagine that number's gone up quite a bit too. So they've got about a fifth of all internet users. And then you look at the others, the second place, the third place, Yahoo and Outlook.com, that used to be called Hotmail. I can never remember which order they come in, but they have about 350 million users and 270 million users, and that, again, is old data. So, you look at the top 10, and they're responsible for 90% of all of the email in the world. And that's actually excluding spam, so just legitimate email. So that means that, together, these companies have a very good kind of fractal omniscience over all email and all, and everything people do through email on a global scale. That's pretty bad. And furthermore, anybody who controls them or has access to their data in one way or another also has that kind of fractal omniscience over all of email, which is to say NSA. Now, of course, not all of these 10 are American, but the vast majority of them are. So, that kind of thinking led me and my colleagues at MailPile to start thinking about, like, okay, can we actually do something better about this, or just improve on the current situation? And if you look at the offerings of free software, where people basically install their own little client, and then they could have a server somewhere wherever they want, and in terms of features, free software hasn't been keeping up. As much as I was a Thunderbird user for many years, and it is slow. It's kind of just not compatible with my workflows. It doesn't do what I want it to do, and it's a bit ugly and horrific as well. But on top of that, Mozilla, the creators of it, have decided to stop developing it. So now they release maintenance patches just if there's any bugs, but basically the flagship email project of the free software world has been discontinued for all intents and purposes. And then you look at, okay, what else do we have? We have Evolution, but who's ever used that? And we have, Squirrel Mail, but, really? And, Roundcube. Roundcube is actually, it's a bit bulky, but at least it's in active development. But, in terms of what's real, none of these things can compete against Gmail, because everybody likes Gmail. It is fast, it has got really good search capabilities, and in fact the only downsides to it are that it's a very centralized service. It's controlled by one company who very actively shares data with the US government. I know this because I got a letter from US law enforcement at google.com last summer, saying that 2 years previously they had been ordered to hand over all of my Gmail and all my Google account information to some kind of secret court in the US. And they didn't say why. Of course, they didn't know, but it was nice of them to tell me, albeit 2 years too late. One of the fundamental rules of like how law and investigations are conducted, and I don't actually think I was under investigation directly, but that's not the point. The point is that if they want data from me, they should have to come to me to get it. They should not be able to go to some third party and say, hey, actually, we're just going to get data from you and you can't tell him. That's just entirely unacceptable. So MailPile is, we're building in strong encryption features. We're building that in from day one, so that it isn't like a crafted on kind of plug-in kind of thing, because that kind of thing, while it gets good in the case of Enigmail, it's still not good enough. We want to get it really deep into the core. Another thing is, we want it to look good, we want it to feel good and be a thing that you can actually use and like. So that means that we want it to be feature compatible with and as usable or more usable than the competitors, which include Gmail, Yahoo Mail, and whatnot. So it is a free thing. It is only a client. It isn't the server side. So that's still a problem that needs to be solved. We will hopefully be able to deal with that sometime further down the line. But we're just trying to hack at this problem because, really, when we have, now almost half of humanity using, email through about 10 email providers in practice, that's really bad. Now, email isn't the only communications protocol that has this feature. Skype is 600 million users. There are problems that need to be, and then there's Facebook with 1 billion and so on and so forth. So, we need to solve all of these, but for now we're focusing on email and hopefully we'll make some improvements on that.